The galaxy was not quiet. Stars burned, fleets moved, and ancient civilizations stretched their power across light. One of the oldest was the Zorith Empire. Their ships were vast. Their weapons could crush planets. Their minds were sharp and cruel. They believed nothing could stop them. They believed no one could survive against them. But the universe was changing. A strange force moved through the stars. Scientists called it the Chronal Drift. It was a temporal maelstrom, a storm of time itself. Whole systems blinked out of existence. Battles that lasted for days disappeared in an instant. Past, present, and future twisted together. No machine could measure it. No mind could predict it. The Zorith Empire felt the first shock and did not understand. Their cities on the planet Thalara shook. Buildings cracked and fell. Time around them moved strangely. One moment, the sun rose, and the next, it set, then rose again. Children vanished from playgrounds. Soldiers appeared and disappeared mid-battle. Panic spread faster than fire. Admiral Kale watched the destruction from the bridge of his flagship. He had commanded countless wars, crushed dozens of enemies, and survived betrayals that would have ended lesser beings. Yet he felt a cold fear now that no amount of strategy could fix. The planet beneath him, his home world, the world of his ancestors, was dying. The first fleets sent to study the rift never returned. Ships vanished without a trace. Kale ordered new scouts, only to watch them fade from existence before his eyes. Fear crept into the hearts of even the strongest Zorath warriors. Kale thought of his people. Families burned in temporal fires. Cities blinked in and out of reality. The empire that had ruled the stars for 1,000 years was collapsing. Betrayal came in a different form this time. Not from enemies, not from traitors, but from time itself. It twisted, broke, and tore everything they had built. And yet, even in the chaos, one strange thing caught Kale's eye. A small signal, weak and unremarkable, came from the edge of the galaxy. It was human, a fragile species, almost forgotten, insignificant by every measure. To Kale, they were nothing, just a colony on a backwater world, barely able to defend themselves. A species not worth his attention. But the signal was persistent. It did not falter, even as stars blinked out around it. It survived the temporal storms that had swallowed entire fleets. Kale frowned. Nothing in the galaxy should have survived this. Yet here it was, a spark in the darkness. The Chronal Rift grew stronger. Time in Kale's sector twisted violently. Ships appeared to move backward. Orders given were undone before they were spoken. Soldiers aged and became children, then vanished. The Zorith Empire's proud fleets were useless. Strategy failed. Power meant nothing. Kale felt his own fear grow. He had faced death countless times. He had stared down enemies that outnumbered him 10 to 1. But this was different. This was a force he could not fight. A force that did not care about him, his fleets, or his empire. As the rift roared around Thalara, one human ship blinked into view. Tiny, fragile, almost laughable. And yet, it moved through the chaos unharmed. Kale could not understand it. His eyes burned with confusion and dread. What was this creature? How could it survive what had destroyed countless Zorath lives? The Chronal Rift pulsed. A scream of reality itself echoed through the void. Kale's planet cracked. A city vanished. The human ship continued, untouched. Time bent around it like it obeyed its will. Kale swallowed hard. Something had changed. Something was coming. And he did not know if he, or his empire, would survive it. The human signal pulsed again, stronger this time. It carried a pattern that no Zorith mind could read. Kale stared, horrified and fascinated. For the first time in his long life, he felt that humans, these weak, insignificant creatures, might be more important than anything he had ever known. And then, the rift screamed louder, swallowing part of Thalara. The human ship blinked again, deeper into the maelstrom, leaving Kale with one terrible thought. The galaxy was about to meet something it had never faced. Asterisk. The galaxy trembled under the Chronal Rift. Entire fleets vanished. Planets blinked out of existence. Time itself had become a weapon. The Zorith Empire struggled to survive, but chaos reigned everywhere. And yet, at the very edge of the known galaxy, a small human colony on the planet Kisara kept moving. Humans were fragile, weak, insignificant. No alien worth its intelligence even noticed them. They had no massive fleets, no planet-crushing weapons, no centuries of experience fighting in the stars. To most, they were barely alive, barely important, and barely worth looking at. But humans had something the galaxy could not measure: curiosity, stubbornness, a refusal to accept limits on Kessera. Scientists watched strange fluctuations in time. Clocks spun backward, plants grew and died in minutes. Their instruments failed constantly, and yet humans did not panic. They studied, they experimented, they risked everything to understand what no one else could. Dr. Ilara Voss, a leading human scientist, stared at the flickering readings on her console. Every formula she had learned seemed useless. Every prediction failed. But she did not give up. She traced patterns others would call chaos, searching for rules hidden beneath the madness. Her team suffered. Instruments exploded. Volunteers disappeared in temporal flashes. Some never returned. Pain burned, but it only drove the humans harder. They built strange suits that could withstand sudden time shifts. They tested engines that could jump seconds into the past or future. They mapped the edges of the Chronal Rift with nothing but courage and stubbornness. And with each attempt, they learned something new. Each failure became a lesson, each loss a step forward. Aliens observing from afar would have laughed. Small, fragile humans, toying with forces that could erase planets. What could they possibly do? How could such puny creatures matter in the chaos of time? But humans were not deterred by laughter. They were not deterred by loss. They were not deterred by the fear that burned in their hearts. Fear existed for them, yes, but it did not control them. They used it, they turned it into energy, into determination, into power. As the Chronal Rift pulsed and twisted around Kessera, the humans prepared for a test. A small ship, equipped with experimental chrono-adaptive engines, was ready to enter the rift. The mission was dangerous. Survival was uncertain. Most would not make it. And yet, the crew stepped aboard, hearts steady, minds sharp, refusing to let fear rule them. Dr. Voss watched the countdown. Her hands trembled, but her mind was clear. She thought of her people, her colony, her fragile species that everyone ignored. This mission was more than science. It was survival. It was defiance. It was a human declaration. We will not surrender. The engines roared. Time outside the ship twisted violently. Stars flickered. Space itself seemed to breathe. And then, the human ship vanished into the temporal storm, leaving nothing but a trail of distorted light behind. Aliens who monitored from afar blinked in confusion. A human ship should have been destroyed instantly, but it was gone, and yet still there, moving, unbroken, defying the chaos. Dr. Voss's team held their breath. They had no idea what awaited them inside the maelstrom. No one did, and yet, humans felt a spark of hope, a tiny, fragile hope that maybe they could survive what the galaxy said was impossible. At the edge of the rift, the unknown waited. Patterns shifted. Time cracked. The ship disappeared again, deeper into the maelstrom, and in that instant, one human mind glimpsed something terrifying, a force inside the rift that had not been seen before. A shadow in time itself, moving faster than thought. Watching, waiting, the human crew realized that survival would not be enough. They would have to fight. They would have to endure. They would have to become more than the galaxy expected. And then, the shadow moved closer. The Chronal Rift raged like a living storm. Time twisted violently across star systems. Entire fleets blinked out of existence. Cities vanished midday. Death came without warning, without mercy, without reason. Nothing in the galaxy had ever faced a threat like this. Humans were caught in its fury. Their fragile ship, the Aurora, tumbled through collapsing time. One moment, the crew watched stars burn. The next moment, the same stars were gone. Instruments failed constantly. Paths they thought were safe led to sudden destruction. Each jump through the rift left them battered, exhausted, and uncertain if they would survive the next second. Pain became their teacher. Crew members disappeared and reappeared, some altered, some broken. The losses were cruel. The ship shuddered from temporal strain. Every mistake could erase a human life in an instant. Yet, each trial taught them something new. Each failure became a lesson in patience, observation, and adaptation. The humans' vulnerability drew alien attention. From the edge of the rift, Zoroth observers watched the tiny ship. They laughed. Ridiculous creatures. Fragile flesh and weak minds playing in a storm that had swallowed entire fleets. They shook their heads. This species would not survive. It could not. No human could. The irony was lost on them. Humans did not fight with massive fleets or advanced weapons. They fought with willpower, with stubbornness, with a refusal to surrender. The more the rift tore at them, the more determined they became. Every loss sharpened their minds. Every failure strengthened their resolve. Pain forged power in ways alien technology could not measure. Inside the Aurora, Dr. Ilara Voss and her crew studied the chaos. Patterns emerged, faint and flickering. Shifted not randomly, but with subtle rules. If they watched closely, they could predict when a jump might erase them, when a star might vanish, or when the rift might fold back on itself. The first attempts to exploit these patterns almost failed. Crew members screamed in pain as moments repeated, reversed, and collided. Time punished them. The ship groaned under stress, but humans adapted. They learned to anticipate the rift's twists, to move with the storm rather than against it. They refused to die without a fight. Outside, Zorath admirals shook their heads in disbelief. They had assumed humans were weak, foolish, insignificant. Yet the Aurora continued to move, undestroyed, defiant. They did not understand how. They could not predict human resilience. It was a force the galaxy had never seen. The paradox struck harder. A wave of temporal energy approached a maelstrom strong enough to erase planets. Stars bent backward. Time snapped. The humans braced themselves. Instruments shattered. Crew members fell unconscious. Yet they endured. They pushed forward through pain, fear, and loss, refusing to surrender. Then something incredible happened. The humans discovered a moment when the rift paused, a weak point in its chaos. It was tiny, almost imperceptible, but it offered a chance. A way to survive the impossible, a way to strike back, even against time itself. But as they prepared to exploit it, alarms screamed. The rift pulsed violently. Space around them cracked. Shadows moved within the storm. The force that had claimed countless lives now turned its attention toward the Aurora. Something intelligent lurked inside the chaos, watching the humans, testing them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Dr. Voss gripped the console. Her heart pounded. She knew that surviving the rift was no longer enough. They would have to fight. They would have to endure. They would have to face the unknown and survive where no one else could. And then, in a flash of twisted light, the ship's sensors detected Eta presence inside the rift. Something alive, moving faster than time itself, heading straight for the humans. The crew froze, fear clawing at their hearts. The Chronal Rift roared louder, threatening to tear them apart. And at that moment, the Aurora realized that their greatest test had just begun. The humans were still alive. Against the odds, against the Chronal Rift, the tiny ship Aurora moved forward. Every second was a fight. Every pulse of the storm could erase them. Yet they endured. From the edge of the rift, the Zoroth watched. Their ancient eyes narrowed. A single human ship, fragile and puny, dared to survive where their vast fleets had vanished. They laughed. Ridiculous creatures. They had no weapons strong enough, no shields strong enough, no minds sharp enough. Humans were nothing, but the humans did not care. They did not have massive fleets. They did not have super weapons. They had something else: stubbornness, courage, curiosity, and a refusal to surrender. Every human who fell, every instrument that failed, every moment of despair became a lesson. Every failure made them stronger. Every loss sharpened their instincts. Inside the Aurora, Dr. Ilara Voss studied the patterns of the rift. Time was chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous but not random. There were moments when the storm paused, microseconds when the chaos slowed. If they acted in those moments, humans could survive where no one else could. They experimented. They risked everything. Crew members disappeared, reappeared, or returned altered. Pain became their guide. Fear became their fuel. They adapted faster than the rift could punish them. Humans learned to move with time instead of against it, and with every tiny success, the impossible became slightly more possible. The Zoroth laughed louder. Insignificant creatures, fragile, foolish, weak, nothing can save them from the rift. Yet every second, the human ship endured. Every calculated jump avoided death. Every temporal test that should have destroyed them left them alive, learning, growing. Humans were small, fragile and insignificant, but they were alive, and that frightened the Zoroth more than any weapon could. The galaxy had never seen a species so persistent, so unyielding, so unwilling to give up. Then came the first real test. A violent surge of temporal energy struck the Aurora. Stars collapsed around them. Space warped. Every instrument went dead. Crew members screamed inside their suits as seconds repeated, reversed, and collided. Death should have claimed them. The storm should have ended their lives. But the humans adapted. They remembered the pattern from their last trial. They synchronized their engines with the rhythm of the storm. Every movement became precise. Every decision counted. Every pulse of fear became fuel. And slowly, agonizingly, they moved through the surge without being destroyed. The Zorith stopped laughing. Their calculations were perfect. The human ship should have been nothing. Yet it survived. Again, a faint signal came from deep within the rift. Humans detected it. It was unlike anything they had seen. A strange rhythm in the chaos, a flicker of intelligence. It moved fast. Too fast to understand. Too dangerous to ignore. Dr. Voss stared at the readings. "It's alive," she whispered. "Not a creature like humans. Not a creature like something else. Something older. Something that had survived the rift longer than anything else. Something that might end them or guide them." The crew felt a mix of fear and hope. This force could destroy them instantly. Yet it was also a clue, a weakness in the storm. A secret in the chaos. If they could reach it, perhaps humans could survive what the galaxy said was impossible. But the rift pulsed violently again. Shadows flickered across their instruments. The unknown force moved closer, faster, smarter, watching them, learning them, and the humans realized they were not just surviving, they were being tested. The Zorith continued to underestimate them. The galaxy still laughed, but for the first time, humans knew that survival would not be enough. They would have to fight, adapt, and defy the impossible. And as the unknown force shifted closer, the aurora trembled on. The humans braced themselves for a revelation that could either destroy them or change everything. The Chronal Drift had grown into a storm no mind could fully predict. Stars bent backward, fleets vanished in an instant, and reality itself trembled. The galaxy watched in fear. Every civilization had lost vessels, planets, or entire star systems. Nothing could survive here, nothing except humans. The aurora moved through the chaos like a fragile leaf in a hurricane. Time twisted, snapped, and folded around it. Yet the humans inside were alive. Pain and loss had taught them lessons no machine could calculate. Every failure, every death, every near erasure had honed them into something sharper, stronger, more unpredictable. Dr. Alara Voss stared at the readings from the heart of the rift. A faint, pulsing pattern emerged in the chaos. It was the rhythm of the storm itself. Humans could not control time. They could not stop it. But if they moved with it, instead of against it, they could survive and even dominate the impossible. The crew adjusted the chrono-adaptive engines. Every maneuver had to match the rhythm of the storm. Every calculation had to anticipate the rift's next pulse. Every heartbeat mattered. They were small, fragile, insignificant, and yet they were dangerous. A surge of temporal energy struck the aurora from the side. Instruments melted. Crew members felt seconds repeat endlessly, then vanish. Death should have claimed them. The rift should have crushed them. But humans adapted. They flowed with the chaos, twisting their movements with the storm, predicting shifts before they happened. From the edge of the galaxy, alien eyes widened in shock. The Zorith had assumed humans were fragile, weak, foolish. They laughed as the small ship entered the rift. They expected failure. They expected nothing. But now, calculations failed. Predictions were useless. The humans survived and adapted faster than the storm itself. Then the unknown force revealed itself. A shadow in the rift, moving faster than thought, bending time with impossible precision. It was older than the galaxy, more powerful than any fleet, and infinitely more dangerous. It had destroyed others. It had consumed entire worlds, and it was heading straight for the humans. The aurora dodged, spun, and moved with impossible timing. The humans were faster than death, more unpredictable than the storm, and cleverer than the shadow could anticipate. Every strike of the paradox was met with human ingenuity. Every twist of the rift was countered with stubborn, unyielding courage. Dr. Voss realized the truth. Humans had no choice but to fight with what they had. Fear turned into courage, pain turned into strength, curiosity turned into knowledge, and the impossible became their weapon. The shadow lunged, time collapsed around them, space buckled, stars blinked out, and yet, the humans survived. They turned the rift's own chaos against it. The shadow faltered, confused, unable to predict the unpredictable. Humans, small, fragile, underestimated, were winning. The Zorith fleet at the edge of the rift fell silent. They had assumed the humans were insignificant, weak, doomed. And now, against impossible odds, humans had survived where every alien had failed. Against the very force of time, they endured. Against the galaxy's expectations, they thrived. But victory was not complete. The shadow had retreated, only for a moment. It was intelligent. It was patient. It had learned from the humans, and it would strike again, faster and deadlier than before. Dr. Voss gripped the console. She looked at her crew, battered, exhausted, but alive. Humans had survived. Humans had adapted. Humans had shocked the galaxy. But they knew one th.